Welcome back everybody to another episode on EI Entertainment Studios, back at it with another debate episode. Today's debate episode we're going to be talking about Shin Legendary Godzilla versus Shin Gamera. Now I'm going to do a quick disclaimer on this debate video because if you are a returning viewer, you'll notice these two monsters have been used in the past on different videos against different opponents. Now, some of their backstories and abilities, pretty much small specifications here and there, may be altered to fit their opponents. Just wanted to let you guys know that, so that you might be like, what the heck, it's a bit different. Well, yeah, it's gonna be a bit different from the original ones, just to fit the opponents. Anyways, without further ado, let's begin with Shin Legendary Godzilla's backstory. We'll pretty much, that's the plan. We'll finish him, move on to Shin Gamera. Once we're done with both of these monsters, we'll put them up against each other for the big finale battle. So without further ado, let's begin with the backstory of Shin Legendary Godzilla. So, Shin Legendary Godzilla came to be when Legendary Godzilla had an offspring, and aliens from another planet sent Shin Godzilla to abduct the offspring and genetically mutate it to fight against its own father. The whole brain was washed clean and Shin DNA was inserted into the Legendary Godzilla offspring and was completely mutated into Shin Legendary Godzilla. Now, for Shin Legendary Godzilla, I have completely altered the backstory. If you guys have been watching the short films EI Monsterverse, a few months back I did make Shin Legendary Godzilla vs. Godzilla 2019. And this is pretty much the whole story of the film, which is kind of interesting. I decided to incorporate it into the debate video. Now I'm going to skim over the abilities. We're going to finish off Shin Legendary Godzilla. And before we move on to Shin Gamera, we'll do a deep analysis of the abilities, so no worries there. So abilities goes as follows, a quick skim for now. Super Atomic Lasers, Burning Blast ability, Maximum Regeneration, Tail Mouth Flesh Ripper, Adapt, and Evolve ability. Alright, height is 298 meters tall, aggression level is maximum, territorial level is maximum. Biome is Earth and Space, pretty much unlimited, and I will explain why in the ability section why that is. So that's what we're going to do right now, since that pretty much sums up Shin Legendary Godzilla's everything. Let's go back to the abilities and let's do a deep analysis of them. So they go as follows. Super Atomic Lasers is very interesting. Now if you've been watching, again, I'm completely incorporating this. This is something I've never done with my debate videos, so I think it's kind of unique. If you've seen my short films, when I do include Shin Legendary Godzilla, you'll notice whenever he uses his atomic lasers, it's not one laser like Shin Godzilla or one big atomic breath like Godzilla 2019. Instead, it's three small lasers, but it's three of them. It's a triple shoot, and it pretty much rips the flesh. I would say it's more powerful than an atomic laser or an atomic breath because it's so focused. And that's what the super atomic lasers are. It's three different colors. It could be altering, the colors doesn't specifically mean anything. And he has three different colors. At the same time, it shoots at his opponents from the mouth, and it completely just rips the flesh clean. It's a really good atomic ability. Next one, we have the Burning Blast ability. This is nothing special. This is just because this was the offspring of Legendary Godzilla, and the mutation stayed in him even after the Shin DNA was inserted. So he still has, since he's sharing, the Legendary DNA, he still is able to go into burning mode just like the father could. Alright, next we have Maximum Regeneration ability. Now we know that Shin Godzilla can regenerate quite quickly, and having that Legendary Godzilla is the first Godzilla that I have personally seen survive a blast from the Oxygen Destroyer, making this new hybrid Godzilla having a maximum regeneration ability because of that. And that's a very, very important ability, specifically for fighting a big monster. Alright, next we have the Tail Mouth Flesh Ripper. This is very interesting because when I watched the movie of Shin Godzilla, we saw that Shin Godzilla has a tail and a face at the end. Hopefully that debate is over. Yes, he has a face on the end of his tail. And I've made a few theories how maybe that might be his actual brain and all that, but that's not the time for this. But what we did not see the tail do is actually be functioning as an actual face or even biting his opponents. And now I made that theory into a reality in this debate video. And what I did is I made this new ability called Tail Mouth Flesh Ripper. And what it means is he can actually use his tail to bind onto his opponents, and new teeth form and just bite into the flesh of the opponents. And then, as that happens, as he could do the super atomic lasers from the mouth, he can do it from the tail. When he's biting his opponents, now it's so focused, it's going to be hitting, because imagine you're biting your opponent. The tail is already on the flesh of the opponent, and then the super atomic lasers attach from there and completely disintegrate the organelles. It's like taking a biology class at this point. Now, finally, the last ability we have is Adapt and Evolve. It comes from Shin DNA. We know that Shin has many forms because of his adaptation and evolution abilities. And that's pretty much it. We see Form 1, well, we didn't see Form 1, but we see Form 2, Form 3, and Form 4, and then possibly going up to even unlimited forms as he can, making him the most powerful Godzilla to date. Now, with that being said, that's pretty much what it is. If you've seen Shin Godzilla, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, well, you still know what I'm talking about because he can evolve and change forms. Meaning, what he does is he can actually take forms of his own opponents, possibly making decoys of them. But okay, that pretty much sums up Shin Legendary Godzilla. Now, what we can do, and what we will do, is go back into Shin Gamera now. This is an interesting one. I think it's very unique. So let's talk and let's see. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did with Shin Legendary Godzilla. We're going to go over the backstory, abilities, characteristics, all that, yada yada yada. Alright, let's go ahead and do it. So, Shin Gamera came to be. One day, Gamera and Shin Godzilla met and began to fight for dominance on who is the alpha predator, when suddenly, while Shin Godzilla distracted Gamera, one of the humanoids went inside of Gamera and released large amounts of DNA modifiers to mix Gamera's DNA with that of Shin DNA, fully mutating him and making him Shin Gamera. And as you can see, he's grown 2 heads in the thumbnail. Okay. Now, let's go over the abilities, or quickly skim over the abilities. Oh, that's a shame. We're not going to go deep into them yet. So, atomic lasers, invisibility, one head tragedy, atomic shell laser, carbon dioxide power lift, power crunch head swap, pure titanium shell, opponent recreation ability, and DNA mix ability. Okay, now, these abilities have been used in the past. However, the same disclaimer will apply here. I want to say 90% of them have been completely altered with the same name, but have been completely altered to either become more powerful or to fit the opponent. So with that being said, they're not going to be the same as they were in the past. Alright. So atomic laser, starting off with a basic one, nothing special. It comes from Shin DNA. It is a normal atomic laser that Shin had, the purple, or you could call pinkish laser that he had. It is the same one. Now that Gamera shares Shin DNA, he can use it from both of his mouths. Next, we have invisibility. Now, something went wrong. You could say this is a mutation, right? Mutation is a differing in the genes of the DNA. And what happened is something went wrong in the mutation. And what happened is it gave Shin Gamera the ability to not actually go invisible, right? He's not a magician, and he's not gonna go invisible. But what is going to happen is the body distortions can actually trick his opponents. It's like him, what is a better way of putting it? He can trick his opponents. It's an illusion that makes his opponents feel like he is invisible, and at the same time, he's not even actually doing anything, which I think is quite interesting. Not doing anything at all. But he can, the way he moves, if he moves left and right too quick, he becomes a whole illusion, and his opponents think that he is invisible. And I think that is quite interesting. Now, going off with that, next we have the one-head tragedy. Now, the reason why I call it a tragedy is because Shin DNA is completely suffering throughout this whole process, growing another head, and it has to be painful. And what happens is he can actually bind these two heads as one and just combine the power of the atomic lasers and more abilities we're going to talk about, just combine them and just swoosh them at the opponent is what I meant to say, and it's going to do a lot of damage, a heck of a lot of damage, especially if he wants to bite his opponents. The one-head tragedy is a good ability to use. Next we have the atomic, so pretty much the basic thing is he can combine those two heads into one, morph them into one, and then morph them out to two. Next we have the atomic shell laser. So we know that Shin Godzilla, when he was still Shin Godzilla before sharing his DNA with Gamera, he has atomic lasers all throughout his dorsal plates. Well, the same concept has carried on here, and Shin Gamera actually has, I want to say, at least 3,000, if not 4,000 lasers all scattered throughout his shell, and he can turn around and shoot them focused on his ability, or on his, what is up with me saying ability two times again when I meant to say opponent? Well, excuse me on that, but onto his opponent. It's quite interesting. Anyways, so that's what's happening right there. Now we have the carbon dioxide power lift. This is very interesting. Every time Gamera breathes, like a normal organism that has the biology of living on Earth, uses oxygen to breathe, and then breathes out carbon dioxide, or CO2, you could call it. So what happens is, every time he breathes out, if he wants to fly, he gets more energy. Now, he can already fly with his lasers, but remember that this is an organism that needs energy. And what's very interesting, that he's becoming so adaptive into Earth. Every time he breathes, not only does he get energy, and does he get energy for living, energy, or oxygen is the number one matter of life. Carbon dioxide actually powers his lasers to fly without him even using the other energy of his body, which is very innovative, I would say, and a very good defensive ability too. Next we have the Power Crunch Head Swap. This is a very good one. This is pretty much, I want to say, the same thing, very similar to One Head Tragedy. This one is a Power Crunch Head Swap. And so what he can do is get two of his heads, and not actually binding it into one, but instead another illusion of making his opponents feel like, or think that he's bind them into one, and completely distract them and use one of the other heads that the opponent doesn't see to completely attack the opponent off guard. And then we have the Pure Titanium Shell. This is a defensive ability that his shell is completely hard, very, very difficult to break through. And then we have the Opponent Recreation ability. This is a Shin DNA ability. You know how Shin can evolve and adapt. Shin Legendary has this as well. You just word it differently as I did. Opponent Recreation ability. Yes, he can recreate his opponents, as we saw that in the fourth form of, or we could say fifth form of Shin DNA, possibly. he was making humanoids at the end of his tail because what did he see? He saw humans, and that's what he was doing. Because of what he saw, he was evolving into that, or potentially evolving into that. And that's pretty much what that is. And then we have and it takes him about 15 minutes to do it for this Shin Gamera at least. And DNA mix ability, same thing. The way he was mixed, he can recreate opponents by mixing DNAs. For example, if Shin Gamera wanted to mess up something of another opponent, he could share his DNA and make, let's say, Shin Gaigen, for example. We're just saying an example. But it would be Shin Gamera Gaigen, you know? Alright. So those are the abilities. The biome was Earth and space. Territory level is no. Does not care about territory. Aggression was high, and height is 319 meters. Okay, now that we have completely finished Shin Gamera and Shin Legendary Godzilla, now it's time to put these two monsters up against each other for the big battle. How I like to do this is I like to put them up against each other on best out of two, close range and far range. Close range being way more practical because big giant monsters want to get up into their faces and rip each other and kill each other face to face. But the whole point of far distance that I like to do first, obviously it's less practical, is to try and test these opponents by limiting their abilities, see if they lack anything. If not, then they're really powerful. If yes, then they suck. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're going to do close range and far range. Far range first, and then best for last, close range. Now, in a rare instance, if we do have a tie, I'm not going to explain right now because I'm not trying to waste time, but if we do, we'll go to overtime, which is just pretty much, you know what, yeah. If we get there, I'll explain it. Okay, so let's start off with far distance. At 700 meters apart, cannot get closer than 700 meters. That is the rule. So let's see what abilities Shin Legendary Godzilla can and cannot use. And with this being very interesting, I might just make a Shin Legend, you know, because as soon as I said Shin Legendary Godzilla, something in my brain wanted me to say Shin Legendary Gamera. That could be the next debate video, or possibly a future one if you guys want. But with that being said, let's not get off topic. Let's see what abilities Shin Legendary Godzilla can and cannot use when it comes to far distance. Alright. Remember, this is far distance. Super atomic lasers, yes, meant to go far distance, it is completely legal in this case. Burning blast ability, yes. Maximum regeneration ability, its defensive doesn't matter, so sure. Tailed mouth flesh ripper will not be able to use that because he has to actually touch the opponent and he will be 700 meters apart, so tailed mouth flesh ripper will not be available. But he can use an altered version of that, and he can use the super atomic lasers from the tail as well, so he can use 50% of that ability, which is, I would still take that rather than nothing. Adapt and evolve ability, sure, it has nothing to do with distance. Alright. So, this is actually the most rarest occurrence in the debate videos, because there has been times where opponents have been able to use all their abilities in a far distance, or possibly none of them, or like just one of them. But I have never had an opponent use half of one of their abilities for far distance. I think that's really interesting. Okay, so now we know what he can and cannot use. Now let's go to Shin Gamera and see what he can and cannot use before we can do this. Atomic lasers, perfect. Invisibility, no. The illusion will not work. He has to be very close to his opponent for the illusion to work. So the illusion will not work in this instance. One head tragedy, yes. Atomic shell laser, yes. Carbon dioxide power lift, sure. Nothing to do with that with distance, as I said. Power crunch head swap, no. Illusion will not work there as well. Opponent recreation ability, I want to say no for Shin Legendary Godzilla, because he's not going to see him quite well from 700 meters apart. He needs to completely analyze him, so no, it's not going to happen. No, can I use that DNA mix ability? Sure, if it's a human, just wants to show his finger on a human and completely mess up the human, make a Shin human DNA or a Shin human monster. But that being said, we're gonna say no so no for Shin Legendary against Shin Legendary Godzilla 2. So okay, so we have the ability summed up, the restricted ability summed up. Now let's put these two monsters against each other, and let's see who is gonna kill the other one first. Now obviously, both of these are intruders to Earth. I would say that Shin Legendary Godzilla is a complete intruder. And Shin Gamera, since Gamera has a part of his own Gamera part being an Earth defender, we'll say that Shin Gamera is the defender of the Earth at this instance, and Shin Legendary Godzilla is the one taking over. Now, obviously, being an Earth defender, you're gonna have to be a bit more aggressive, and I'm gonna say that Shin Gamera will be the one to initiate the battle as a defensive technique. And starting it off with the atomic laser. Now, obviously, the atomic laser I don't think is going to do too much to Shin Legendary Godzilla. It's either going to do two things: agitate him or push him back, and it's obviously going to agitate him, just gonna piss him off, right? And with that being said, I think as a response to that, Shin Legendary Godzilla will use a super atomic laser. With those three, remember what I said, those three atomic lasers? Now, definitely that's going to cause some, I want to say a medium, because it's the first time he's using it, you know, let's say Shin Gamera is pretty healthy at this point, it's going to cause a medium level of damage on Shin Gamera. I want to say some of the flesh, you're going to see some blood here and there. It's definitely going to cut some flesh. Now, obviously, nothing to the shell, it's to the front. Yeah, and yes, he has shell to the front as well, so I'm assuming it's going to be either some part of the head or the hands or the feet that's going to get hit by this the most. And as a response, now obviously that's going to happen. Now at this point, these two monsters are fighting. Now they are far distance, remember, so they can't really get close to each other. So I think the best thing he can do at this point is an atomic shell laser. Shin Gamera is gonna turn back and just send thousands and thousands of force brute lasers straight at Shin Legendary Godzilla, throwing him to the ground, completely messing up his body. It's all blood, it's all messed up. Just I'm trying to imagine that scenario right now, because it's gonna cause a heck of a load of damage. And the response to that is right before Shin Legendary Godzilla is all effed up, I believe, is the Burning Blast ability, which is gonna really help him, and it's gonna completely blow Shin Legendary Godzilla. It's gonna make him blow away. At the same point, it's gonna make Shin Gamera blow away. And remember, this is where the whole Shin DNA comes in. He can quickly evolve and regenerate, and make a way that that ability does not affect them. Because remember, Shin Godzilla can evolve, and he can evolve so much as to adapt as well. So let's say that he couldn't live in water. For example, I'm not saying he can't, he couldn't. He can evolve gills and live in water. Now this burning ability is going to cause a lot of damage to Shin Gamera, and he can evolve into a way that Burning Blast does not affect him. If anything, it might help him. But the same thing we could say about Shin Legendary Godzilla, but because of that, we're going to have to cancel it out just to make it fair, because both of these are Shin. So I think when Shin Legendary Godzilla uses the Burning Blast ability from that far distance, it's going to give him the win. So 1-0 in favor of Shin Legendary Godzilla. Okay, now let's go close distance, where the whole ball game changes, where Shin Gamera gets way more abilities and not too much of Shin Legendary Godzilla, pretty much the same things he was using in far distance, but Shin Gamera, he has way more leeway now. So remember this, they are close to each other, their heights are quite similar to Shin Gamera having a bit of a height advantage. atomic lasers and then Shin Legendary Godzilla's super atomic lasers, they're gonna be hitting back and forth. That's not the big one here. Now, I'm not gonna waste your time. I'm not gonna go back and forth about these abilities, but I'm gonna go to the finale at this point from a close distance, and this is the big thing I see happening. I see Shin Gamera using the... which one would we say? Either the one-head tragedy... No, he would be using the Power Crunch head swap. Yes. The Power Crunch head swap will be completely having Shin Legendary Godzilla just completely idiotic, illusioned out, and will completely just use all of his abilities from his other mouth, or his head you can say. And then, when that finishes, he will use the invisibility ability. As I said, he will completely make him look invisible to Shin Legendary Godzilla because of the formations of his body having an illusion type, and then will turn around with that, not knowing, will fly and keep on hitting Shin Legendary Godzilla to the ground, ripping his body, because remember, he has pretty titanium shells, which is quite good, and then sits down, uses the atomic lasers, or the shell lasers, I want to be more precise, and Shin Legendary Godzilla is done. 1-1. Boom. Then we go to overtime, so let me explain it. Overtime is this. It's pure abilities. I don't rate them on battling, I just look at their abilities. Whoever has the better abilities wins. So let's start off with Shin Gamera. He has the atomic lasers, invisibility, one-head tragedy, atomic shell laser, carbon dioxide power lift, power crunch head swap, pure titanium shell, opponent recreation ability, we didn't use that at this debate video, and DNA mix ability. That's Shin Gamera. Shin Legendary Godzilla goes as super atomic lasers, burning blast ability, maximum regeneration ability, tail mouth flesh ripper, and adapt and evolve ability. So out of these two, I'm gonna have to go with Shin Gamera to be the winner at 2-1 ET overtime. So Shin Gamera is the winner because of overtime at 2-1. It was a close battle. Very close battle. Very close battle. But Shin Gamera is the winner. Obviously, this is just my opinion on my debate video. You could debate me in the comment section below. I'll leave all their abilities and all that in their description of the video. But without further ado, thank you so much for watching. It's been an honor. And as always, have a great day. But before I do end this, please, if you have been enjoying this, please consider subscribing, then sharing with family and friends, helping this channel grow. And thank you so much. Stay safe out there from coronavirus, and as always, have a great day.